A very good evening to all our viewers today. Today we have with us our Chief CSR Officer of Numero Uno Company in Technology, TCS. Since 2015, TCS has invested over 350 million on its community initiatives. Our guest today is also been serving chair of STEMconnector, STEM Innovation Task Force, and NPower's TCC Advisory Council. He serves on the US Chamber of Commerce, Foundations Board and Education, World Economic Forum Steering Committee, Vice Chair of Million Women Mentors, Impact 230s, Advisory Council, Here to Here's Business Council, and Board of Women Business Collaborative. His paradigm Purpose in New Tech has been featured in Purpose 360, Purpose INC, Common Impact. Let us all welcome to welcome, sir.
Hi, hello everyone. Hello Arsha. Thanks for that kind introduction. It's really great to be here and engage with all of your viewers and listeners. A very good evening to everybody.
Thank you. In the morning, we had Mr. Judge Mervyn King as our guest speaker, and he was praising all about Tata Group, and here we are. So you have transcended in your career from engineering, human resources, entrepreneurship, and now you're leading the CSR of the largest IT companies in India and one of the top in globally. Where what actually led to the shift and focus towards CSR?
Thank you for asking that question. And before I get into that, a quick few words on why purpose is really important in today's world, and then I'll go into why I'm championing purpose at TCS and at large. If you look at the world that we live in today and the needs that exist in the world, it is we are at a juncture where these needs cannot be resolved just by government intervention alone. That is a known fact, but especially the last 2 years has taught us that in order to address the large scale needs that came out of the pandemic, whether it was health related, education related, livelihood related, food security, any of the issues that you look at, collaboration between private sector, government, and other civic institutions, especially NGOs, is necessary for any sort of social change to happen. The other trend that is happening in the backdrop of this is that from a capitalistic viewpoint, companies are moving more towards a stakeholder capital viewpoint. Of course, the Tatas are very familiar with this. For 150 plus years, we have been a purpose driven company, and our founder said that our very purpose of existence is to serve society, and that is the most important stakeholder. But this recognition is coming in companies around the world today, and as a result of that, more companies are looking to be purpose driven. And it's not just putting your name on a ad, or making marketing campaigns around this. Those can follow, but what really drives the nature of what companies are doing is consumer demand and investor expectations, board expectations. If you are a B2B, then your customer expectations. So this is driving the world at large. And finally, I think we live in a society where people are very well informed and want to be associated with organizations that are very purpose driven. They want their country to do better for their fellow citizens. They want their companies to actively engage in social change. And at a community level, also, they want to not just be voices of purpose. They want to be active contributors too. So this is the backdrop that we live in today, right? And within that space, I think TCS has a very important role to play. We recognize that we are one of the largest and the most valuable information technology companies in the world. Our mission for our customers is to create more sustainable futures through innovation and collective knowledge. And that same mission and vision we are applying to a community context. And our goal is to really bridge the gap between potential and opportunity. Everybody is born with equal potential, but not with equal opportunity. And we believe that connecting people to opportunities in the digital economy is what we are here to do, right? So, and that brings me to your question around my own journey. I believe that anybody can be a servant leader in today's world, right? And the kind of skills, the kind of mindset that you require to run a function like this, initiatives like this, is basically similar to what you need to be successful in any business or running a company, or managing countries. It is servant leadership. It is about recognizing what needs exist and whom you can work with and really bring together and motivate to really make a difference in society. So I believe that all of the things that I did, learning problem solving through engineering, understanding how to put business plans together and execute it as an entrepreneur, as a HR leader, mobilizing teams and bringing teams together to really grow our business footprint, as a business leader, engaging with customers and understanding what their needs are and how we can serve them. All of this has really helped contribute to shaping who I am, and the brand of servant leadership that is required in today's world to lead a function like this.
Wonderful. It's very inspiring journey. Now,
Thank you, Rachel.
during COVID-19, TCS primarily focused on livelihood development, which was very much needed. So, how was the project Rebuilding Livelihoods shaped and implemented?
So I would say that look, in order to connect people to opportunities in the digital economy, our hypothesis, our worldview is that you need to have access to basic education. You need to have access to 21st century skills. You need to find opportunities in employment that put you at one level better than your generation before you, which is how all of us have grown in India, right? And finally, entrepreneurship is an important component that we feel that given the geographic makeup and the mix of people in India, there is a lot of opportunity for young people to become self-employed as entrepreneurs. So these are the pillars and planks on which we run our programs. And we know that whom we are serving, whether it is youth or women or marginalized groups of different kinds across the country and around the world, they have needs in the health and wellness space, or water and sanitation and hygiene issues that may prevent them from pursuing things like this. Like, for example, you cannot ask a hungry child to learn 21st century skills. You have to solve those problems as well in the context of whom you are serving. Or if a young mother has kids and she has to take care of them, you cannot expect her to run an enterprise too, right? I mean, there has to be support systems established. Or if health and wellness of family is not taken care of, communities cannot advance. So we look at those issues in the context of these four pillars of education, skilling, entrepreneurship, and employment. So COVID was a really huge hit to everybody around the world, and especially there were countries and communities within countries where the level of marginalization was higher. So the impact of COVID is also higher. We realized that it was important to have a multi-step approach to this. We needed to have an immediate response, but we also needed to look at long-term resilience, right? So we looked at both of those aspects. And the initial days of COVID, our focus was to pivot our programs to serve in a virtual and in a remote setting where we may not be able to do face-to-face interaction like we used to before. And we were able to do that in a very quick time frame. But at the same time, we also looked at how we can build resilience by starting to look at investing resources, standing up extra capacity for hospitals, for PPE equipment, for other things at that time itself. And even though the first wave had passed, we did not stop our efforts. We continued to work on those efforts along with the group, Tata Group, and other companies, so that whenever future waves hit, we were better prepared. Obviously, those efforts by itself was not enough when the second wave hit, but it definitely helped hundreds of thousands of people. These makeshift hospitals and COVID centers and other equipments that we had put together, the plans that we had put together, helped alleviate some of the issues around the second wave. And we responded in an even bigger way during the second wave to look at oxygen and prioritizing the needs that existed at that time. So the R's, the response, the resilience, all of that is really important. How does livelihood figure in all of this? How do we cause minimal disruption to people who are affected by COVID, and how we can help support them by playing our role is how we have looked at it. So, health and wellness was the first issue that emerged globally. So, that was what we paid attention to. And in particular, focusing on our three stakeholder groups: youth, women, and marginalized groups. That has always been a singular focus for us, right? So, when healthcare systems were having challenges, our own learnings from running large remote healthcare projects, including working on CSR projects with different states like Telangana and Karnataka and Uttaranchal. These helped a lot in helping inform how we should look at a response to the pandemic. The employment and skilling initiatives that we were running, that we pivoted to a remote and a hybrid model, also helped a lot. And in fact, what it did is it democratized access to a larger group of people. So, from people who were able to participate, students who were participating from remote parts of the country where we had to go in person and do the program, by helping bridge some of the last mile gaps. I wouldn't say all of the last mile gaps were addressed, but to the extent that we could, we addressed a lot of those gaps. And therefore, a lot more people were able to participate in that. And then the employment situation was very grim. If you remember, a year ago, this
Yeah.
great resignation was not what was in vogue, right? What was in vogue was opportunities were limited, and already people who are marginalized were further left out. So we realized that they would be the last ones to get new opportunities whenever the economy rebounded. So we made intentional connections through the group of companies, through other network of partners, companies that are competitors to us, and through the programs that we run, we are connecting them to those employment opportunities also. Most recently, for example, end with this example. When the second COVID wave hit, we ran a internal effort to ask all of our employees if there are family members or others in your community who are marginalized, who have been impacted by COVID, nominate them to be part of the program. So there's overwhelming support from employees, and about 1,600 families and people were selected to be part of that youth employment program. We ran the program, we understood the different needs that existed within people who were in the program, and we are on the path of connecting them to employment opportunities already in a very, very short period of time. So that was one example I wanted to highlight. The rural entrepreneurship program also, let me also end with that we have a program called Bridge IT that is basically empowering rural youth to be entrepreneurs and provide digital services that are much needed in villages across the country. And in fact, during the pandemic, these were the last mile connectors who are able to provide valuable services like financial services, citizen services like entitlements, all the schemes that the government is announcing. How do we make sure that it reaches people who need them? It is these entrepreneurs who are able to do that in the villages across the country, and at the same time create income levels where in villages across India, in about 10 states that we run the program, about 3,000 villages are covered. These entrepreneurs are earning every month upwards of about 1 lakh on an average. So, which is a huge opportunity for them to increase their earning potential, but by serving the needs that exist at a community level.
Wow, that's a lot of work, and you all have initiated, and there's a long road ahead for all of us to realize the mission. So I am an engineer, and in during the engineering days, whenever TCS used to come on campus to hire, we all used to be very excited about it, primarily because of its employee volunteering activities as well. So,
Mhm.
which are your CSR interventions where employee volunteering is the key focus?
I'm glad you asked this question. Just yesterday, I reflected. I do weekly reflections on LinkedIn, and just yesterday, I reflected on this and talked about purposeful service. See, I think employee volunteerism is a manifestation of every person wanting to fulfill their purpose, right? You're doing it not only to feel good, which is the starting point, but you want to see that by contributing, by your contribution, a problem in society is being solved, a person in your community is being served. And that purposeful connection is really important and should be at the heart of every employee volunteer program. Yes, we have a lot of initiatives that are self-led by employees, which we definitely promote. But as an organization, we have created opportunities against our mission and vision, against these focus areas. The program design, the theory of change that we have for every program. Take, for example, our GoIT program, which is targeted at students in school and helping them learn how to use technology to solve real world problems. Okay. And it is done through a experiential learning curriculum where they understand to identify problems in society, use design thinking to shape that problem, come together in teams and play different roles and come up with solutions. Then they learn a technology. It could be app building, it could be AI, it could be IoT or blockchain or microbits. These are all technologies that are today revolutionizing how companies are creating solutions for problems, right? And the students learn all of these and then they apply that and create a solution and pitch that solution. So, what brings this program to life? It is our volunteers who bring this program to life. They are at the heart of every program, every strategic program that we have in CSR. Employees are at the heart of it, and they are intentionally connected there. They are not an afterthought. This is not, what I call random acts of kindness, which is also important in society, right? We need people who can clean up beaches. We need people who can paint schools and provide all of those basic infrastructure that is missing. That is necessary. But I think we can have the opportunity to also go above and beyond that to create concerted opportunities where only you and only you can solve that problem that exists in society. How great would it be to match people to opportunities that only they can solve? It meets a need, unfilled need in society, at the same time really capitalizes on and draws upon the strengths of individuals. That is the brand of employee volunteerism. That's the kind of employee volunteerism that we are driving at TCS. GoIT is one example. Every program that we have, whether it is GoIT or Ignite My Future, which is the educator facing program, or the youth employment program that I just referenced, or Bridge IT, or adult literacy program, every one of those is designed to engage volunteers not only within TCS but other group of companies and our collaborators from our customer universe and others in society. That is the way in which we want to grow this.
Thank you so much for conducting and implementing it at such a large scale with including all the employees. Now, you have so many CSR programs. How do you communicate it to the various stakeholders involved in this system? Also, what are your different CSR programs, and is there a common thread running through them?
I'll answer the second question first and then get into how do you go about
Sure.
communicating this. There is
Sure.
absolutely a common thread running across all of this, right? It is all tied to a vision and mission. And it is all about that connecting people to opportunities in the digital economy, but doing that by creating equitable and inclusive pathways for youth, women, and marginalized groups. So, diversity, inclusion, accessibility, sustainability. I mean, these are all values that are embedded and common across all of our programs. So, a traditional viewpoint will be that okay, I should create a education program, I should create a youth empowerment program, a gender upliftment program, and this and that. And that is probably a good way of looking at it if you are an organization that is going to focus on that issue alone. The organization that we are and of our nature, we look at the intersections and cross sections of all of this. So at the heart of everything that we do, if we look at this as a nucleus and atoms and surrounding it, the nucleus is always people and communities that we want to serve. And within that, it is youth, women, and marginalized groups. So, what are the problems that they have? How can we address that? Then comes programs that we create to address that. That is the next layer that is surrounding it. And these programs, as I mentioned, are created very intentionally and cut across different issue areas. It could be gender empowerment through employment, or gender empowerment through entrepreneurship, or through skills creating employment opportunities. So it's always a cross section of issues that we are tackling, not a unidimensional one where it can be only categorized as one. We don't think in that way. We look at it in this way, right? And within that, for example, the aspect of access, equity, inclusion, sustainability is built in. Access is whom do we serve, and do they today have access to opportunities like that? So the choice of aspirational districts, for example, across India, where we work on our Bridge IT program, that is very intentional. It is to create access to people who are currently missing out on opportunities. Equity is going and meeting people where they are at, and putting them and giving them the opportunity to be on a level playing field with others. It is not about treating everybody equally, right? So the effort that we put in for example, those youth whom we are identifying to be part of Bridge IT, the kind of resources that we provide, the work that we do, the community partners that we have, is all to create that equity in the way in which they can compete with others in this space, right? Inclusion comes from choice of whom you serve within that community. Again, taking the example of Bridge IT, it is a lot of the participants, over 60% of participants in Bridge IT are women, and almost all of them belong to the so-called SC/ST or Dalit community, which means that they are the ones who are most socially distanced in terms of inclusion in society, right? So these are examples. This is one example of how this lens and this approach runs through everything that we do in the company. The second question you asked is around, or the first question that you asked is around, how do you message this and communicate it to people? I think it is a work in progress. Today, when I first took on this role a couple of years ago, my question was: does everybody in TCS know about it? Does our external partners and community know about it? And how can they be engaged? Right. So the effort that we have put in is to create a common brand. What you see behind me, TCS Empowers, is the common brand that brings everything that we are doing in the community together. The vision and mission that I articulated is an easy way for people to realize that this is what TCS does and this is how we can be part of it. And we intentionally run efforts to engage people to be part of this nucleus and these atoms that I described, right? So I recognize that not everybody in the company and not everybody in our partner universe would know everything to know about these, but the fundamentals are known. That TCS Empowers is an initiative that education, skilling, entrepreneurship, and employment are the pathways to creating opportunities in the digital economy. And the programs that we are running are the ones that really drive change at a community level. So, by focusing on people in the communities, building these programs on top of that, bringing TCS employees and volunteers on top of that, engaging TCS leaders to provide leadership, I think that is one thing that we increasingly need more and more. This was demonstrated time and again when natural disasters hit. If you look at the history of India, all the way from the Gujarat earthquakes about 15, 20 years ago to today, you will see a lot of mobilization of private sector to create operations and command centers and others to run programs like that. Why not do that on a regular basis, on a day-to-day basis? And that's what a lot of our leaders, mid-level and senior leaders, do today to help bring these programs to the community, and they become civic leaders in that community. So that's another additional lens. So all of them get connected to these mission vision, and then they know about it, they are able to talk about it. Then comes our customer universe, and we definitely partner with them on this, because you don't need to reinvent the wheel. If they have great things going on in the community, or they have identified where the needs are, we can bring our aspect and our strengths and put these together and create societal change. So today we are running programs. We have about 50 ongoing partnership with customers around the world, and we continue to work on increasing those so that the places where we live and work, where our employees live and work in all of the 50 countries around the world, we are serving local needs together. And then comes the role of a government and other civic partners. Obviously, all of this cannot happen without NGOs and non-profits that are doing the work on the ground. So they are the important part of this whole exercise. But what about policymakers? What about government leaders? And they are important as well because they bring legitimacy. They help identify and prioritize where the needs are the most in their districts or in their community. So this is what I wanted to give you as an illustration, that it is not just about jingles and fancy songs and creating marketing campaigns. Those may live in your memory for a few days, but you do it in a way where you are helping people connect to the vision and mission and be part of it and experience it. They become your best brand ambassadors, and it lives forever.
It's a lot of work, and thank you for sharing this important information of communicating and the initiatives that you all have taken. Now, during COVID-19, many of the CSR leaders couldn't even go for ground visit, which is a quintessential element in the lives of a CSR professional. So, what are the innovative technology tools your team used for the smooth functioning of CSR projects during these times? So, would you like to share some of them?
Those are some of the biggest challenges that we encountered during the early days of the pandemic. And I think you have to resort to the common denominator, right? If you go to the most marginalized person that you're serving, a community you're serving, what is it that they have in the form of technology? And that was our starting point. We immediately realized that first of all we needed to pivot everything to a digital model. So, and that doesn't just mean put everything on a website and make it available, right? That is just a digital manifestation of your physical self. But what you need is to reimagine your whole program step by step as a journey and look at how you can bring it to life through a virtual or a remote model. I would say that the systems that we had put in place ahead of time really served us well in making it happen. The network of partners, the community partners that we work with, the end beneficiaries, whether it is youth in colleges or youth in remote India, who were already part of the program and were provided with the technology and equipment to participate in the program and serve the local needs, all of that helped immensely. But we also came up with a lot of innovations. We have a technology. As a technology company, obviously I get this question all the time: what do you do to promote this in the CSR space? We have teams that are dedicated to building technology platforms and tools and systems for our own CSR team, for the needs that we see through our programs, and then pro bono efforts where we serve local NGOs and partners around the world. And so all of that came into fruition during this time. I gave the example of the most marginalized and what their technology availability is. And most of the time, it is not so smartphone with not so reliable, connection, right?
Network.
So we had to really think of low latency solutions where we had to rethink how we are creating our digital platform so that even in an offline mode, people can access the resources or make updates and then provide it during a later time. So things as simple as that, and then as large as creating new platforms. For example, if you go on tcs.com and look at CSR efforts, and you will see that all of our programs that I mentioned are today living on a apps platform that we created in the last 2 years. Whether it is GoIT, it is accessible to any educator, any student around the world through our digital platform. And it provides an online experience where they can go and start to self navigate and go through things and familiarize themselves at their own pace, at their own time. And then what happens is when we then layer on the effort of TCS volunteers and our own team and program teams working with folks who are part of the program, it provides that additional layer of mentorship and support to help bring the program to life. I wouldn't say that everything is rosy and everything is great, but the first year of the pandemic, we served about 1.8 million people. And in fact, that was higher than what we did the year before. So, I mean, I'm extremely proud of our team and the resilience that they have shown, our partners and the efforts that they put in. And we believe that we will continue to have that sort of a reach and deepen our impact while continuing to increase our reach.
Now, it's great to learn that you all have ground partners as well. How do NGOs really approach you all?
I think it is a process of selection. And I say that with utmost respect to everybody who is doing work in the community. I mean, nothing would happen without their participation, their leadership. But it is a selection process because this is a selection process for them and for us also. We have defined that our vision and mission is to and I don't need to repeat it yet another time. So people who are aligned to our vision and mission is the broad first step, right? And the second is alignment to those focus areas, which is the second step. It doesn't, I mean, see, today let's take India as a context. We have 20, 30,000 crores of money coming into CSR efforts every year across corporates. You don't have to go to only one company to get the funding that you required if funding is your focus, right? So there is enough money available across organizations to support the initiatives that are really important. So I think it should be a selection from both sides, right? NGOs need to look at, okay, if these are the focus areas that you're serving, what are your programs within those focus areas? Because a bulk of our efforts, 70, 80% of our efforts, we want to focus on those programs and work along with partners who can become collaborators in bringing these programs to life on the ground. So that is our intention. It's also defined in our CSR policy. We are coming out with an update to our CSR policy where you will see more details around the selection criteria as well as how partners can approach us. I do get unsolicited or requests all the time, but I want to be respectful for everybody's efforts, and say that it is a mutual selection process. And once you start working with us, I think it's a longer partnership, and capacity building and helping organizations grow is something that we are deeply committed to. So it will be a mutual effort needs to be put in to make that happen, and we are ready for that.
I see. So, apart from NGOs, as you rightly think that government is also an essential stakeholder, which are the projects that you all are working with the government in association with them? So, and where all? One of our viewers, Dr. Michael Hopkins, who is also with us, he just mentioned we should have a geographical map of where all are you all present.
Certainly, we can do that. But unlike industrial organizations or others who have a physical footprint, our programs are everywhere, right? Because our services, our software, our products are also serving people everywhere. So that is the approach that we have taken. Within India, I can give you an example. Our youth employment program is today in all 28 states and several union territories, including we are starting in Lakshadweep also. So it is a program that is accessible to colleges and students from tier 2, tier 3 institutions or locations around the country. Our adult literacy program, again, it is a model that is portable to any part of India. While we started working in Andhra and then in Maharashtra and then took it to different parts of the country, including Tihar jail, and we work with a lot of prison inmates in different parts of the country. So you asked government. Government doesn't just mean state governments and central government. It is also government agencies like that, right? Two examples I want to highlight. One is the Prime Minister's effort on Jal Jeevan Mission, which is getting potable water connection and potable water to every household, rural household across India. As part of the Tata Group's effort and the Tata Community Initiatives Trust's effort, TCS has contributed a lot in helping with the technology behind this initiative, both in the form of geographical information systems, IoT framework, as well as applications that can help bring data together so that at a village level, at a Pani committee level, at a block level, at a state level, at a central level, there is data transparency in terms of how much water is being provided to whom, in which part of the village, in which part of the state, etc. The IoT based framework, sensor framework really helps in identifying the quality of water. If you can do tests to that, the availability of water in terms of sources and how much water is left in the reservoir, for example, and helps the water engineers and the local villagers keep track of that. So that is another initiative where at a group level we have worked along with the government. And then the examples I shared earlier of our digital nerve center, which is a healthcare a democratization of healthcare access to primary, secondary, and tertiary centers, healthcare centers across the country. We have worked with the government of Karnataka, the government of Telangana, and the government of Uttaranchal to really bring those programs to life and show how bringing the technology solutions along with people solutions, you can really democratize access to those needs. So these are some examples, but we see a lot of interest from government and government agencies, from organizations like the Indian Army. We work with Army Public Schools, for example, in North India to run our Go IT programs today. So it's a wide spread of partnerships at different levels of government and quasi-government agencies, in addition to non-profit partners. And I also mentioned customers and collaborators that we work with.
Thank you so much. Now, as coming back to the COVID-19, please share with us a little more about the Bridge IT program that you all have been working on.
So I think I mentioned a little bit, but let me take a step back and say that the largest portion of Indians live in rural India, right? Vast majority. At the same time, if you look at the socioeconomic progress that has been made, there has been a lot of progress that has been made in the last 20, 30 years. But still, the income levels, the participation in employment, the what I call moving from a vicious cycle to a virtuous cycle, where you are born into poverty and you live in poverty, and then your next generation also lives in that. To break from that and go into a virtuous cycle where you are able to earn and live at one standard of living higher than what your previous generation did, and continue on that path where you can be more prosperous as a society, that is really important across India. Access to the most important services that people need in rural India is also very important. This could be as fundamental as government schemes and access to everything that you require, whether it is an Aadhaar card, whether it is Ayushman Bharat and the healthcare schemes that are there, or financial schemes that support those in need during challenging times. And then comes all of the access to financial inclusion, right? We have one of the best networks of banks in the world, providing financial support and financial access to people across the country. But often the last mile challenge exists in bringing it to life. You have telehealth related aspects also, where um, access to primary and secondary healthcare systems may be limited in terms of capacity, but if you're able to bridge the gap through digital, you can solve that problem as well. You take any problem set, whether it is health, whether it is education, access to digital skills and 21st century skills, all of these are important. So if you take any of these, e-commerce for example, or logistics, you have a lot of self-help groups and small and micro enterprises across villages that create new products and services that can be consumed by the rest of the country, or logistical support where access to that can ensure that the big e-commerce stores or others who are providing access to products at a cheaper price are able to deliver those services to people in need in the village. So you can take any of these areas, and what you will see that the intersection of social needs and digital is where the solution lies. So Bridge IT was born out of this vision that if dual vision. One is to really empower entrepreneurs who are youth in our country to become digital entrepreneurs or be on a path where they can succeed and become better in life. And on the other hand, support services that are much needed, digital services, frontline services that are much needed and in villages across the country. So it started off in Jhansi about 7 years ago with one of our partners, and today it is a program, like I said, which is in 10 different states, about 30 districts, 3,000 villages. And what these entrepreneurs do is we work with them on a 5 year journey, where in the initial 6 to 8 months is all about helping bring confidence to them, working along with the villagers to identify, or the livelihood committee to identify who could be the entrepreneurs who could participate in the program, putting them through training, giving them resources, and helping them on a journey where they learn business skills, they learn entrepreneurial skills, financial skills, and all of the basic fundamentals that can help them succeed to start and run their own business. And then TCS supports them during this time financially also, so that they have an income source that can sustain them during this time. We also provide them access to infrastructure like laptops and connectivity so that they can start to set up a shop and start to provide basic services. And over the course of the first 18 to 24 months, they start becoming self sufficient and start providing these services and start to see an income stream, multiple income streams start to come in. At the same time, the village starts to see access to these services suddenly being provided, and they want to be consumers of these services. And together, the journey of the entrepreneur and the journey of the village happens over a period of time where all of these services they rely on the entrepreneur and people that they employ. Understand that these are not only single entrepreneurs, almost all of them, most of them go on to start new shops, new enterprises, employ others, and provide employment at a local level in the village also. During COVID, I gave you the examples of how this benefited the country in a huge way. During the first 3 months of COVID, about 5 crores of transactions at these 3,000 villages was done thanks to these entrepreneurs. And then when access to healthcare was a challenge, telehealth schemes were provided by them. And that continues. A lot of challenging times we still encounter today, and these entrepreneurs are continuing to provide a variety of services. This is one example, and as I said, the participation of almost 58-60% of women, almost 80% of all participants are from SC/ST or a marginalized background. The average income, the median income is about a lakh, but average income after the first 6 months of the program is about 80,000 rupees a month or so. After, I mean, that's income in hand. So, if you look at the social impact, the financial impact, all of these are 3x, 4x, or 3 times, 4 times what a young person would be able to achieve if they had chosen another discipline or another employment opportunity, which in many cases may not even be there. So that's the transformative power of Bridge IT, and the perseverance of the entrepreneurs. Their spirit is really bringing this to life, and the work of our partners is giving us access to be able to do this across the country. And ultimately the benefit is to India, it is to villages and people living across rural India.
It is I should mention that you have a great foresight to include the social entrepreneurs and the rural entrepreneurs in the ecosystem while you are developing this. Now, as you mentioned, most of India lives in the rural areas, in the marginalized communities. How do you support these communities through Tata Affirmative Action Program, apart
I,
from
I,
Bridge IT?
I think I spoke about this
Yeah,
also
yeah.
quite a bit. So, see, affirmative action is a consequence of what you do. It is not, to single out and say that only certain set of people will receive certain benefits. It is to be intentional. I spoke about access, equity, inclusion. Those are all the principles underpinning the affirmative action program, right? Whether it is education, entrepreneurship, employment. All of these are the pillars that are part of our affirmative action program. And as usual, the Tata Group has been pioneers in this space, and across group companies, the programs have been designed in such a way that we are living these values every day. So whether it is the youth employment program, whether it is Bridge IT, adult literacy program, Go IT, Ignite My Future, all of these have the center of these programs are people who are marginalized and serving them. So I would just leave it at that. That's that, and the journey is a valuable one. So again, the point I would stress again is that as people who are listening to this, people who are creating and running programs across organizations and other walks of life, try and create multidimensional programs because the needs are not unidimensional. And frameworks like the Tata Affirmative Program provide that multidimensional lens. And I hope some of the examples that I shared with you give you the flavor of how a multidimensional lens can really look at it from a community perspective and whom we are serving, rather than okay, I want to focus on gender, I want to focus on those are important and necessary, but even while having a primary focus, look at those multiple dimensions in constructing and running programs. And there are several examples of very reputed non-profit organizations, NGOs, who are doing this sort of work.
Thank you so much for sharing so many things in such a short span of time. Now, IICSR, this is my last question, but there are some audience questions that we have with us.
Okay.
Now, IICSR is a dedicated institution to develop responsible business leaders. What kind of courses you see that we should introduce to fill the gap of manpower understanding in CSR?
I think it is, I do believe that this is the era of purpose. So I think there will be a lot of inflow of talent and good intentions and great people into this space. What we need to do as a practice, as a space, if I look at CSR as a space, is formalize it a little bit more. I mean, you have, if you look at the world of accounting, or if you look at the, a few of the other areas, there is more organization that is there. There is more standards that are there, and the communities are not competing with each other, but actually collaborating and working together. And I see that also happening in this space. So more work is needed in that space, so that from the exorbitant number of I mean, today, at least on paper, there are 3 million plus non-profits in India. I don't think in practice all of them are in a similar shape and form. That is true. So organizing and helping bring leadership to this space is really important. I think setting standards and helping each other is very important at this stage. Like I said, there is a lot of money available, so it's not a scarcity of resources scenario. And this 2%, I mean, India is on an upward trajectory. The GDP is going to grow, companies are going to grow. So this pool of money is not going smaller; it is only going bigger. But we need to bring more professionalism to this space, more business skills, more business leadership, more leadership from people who have experiences that are outside of the social sector space, in addition, of course, to the social sector knowledge and experience. And that, I think, will benefit everybody a lot. That is my firm belief. But we need to look at this as a professional space and give it that sort of importance and that sort of so one thing I do want to mention, that within TCS we have programs that train volunteers to be good volunteers before they engage in any effort. I think that is necessary. I think organizations like us and others in the private sector, in addition to what you are doing in the general population, we need to do that. So we have a whole tier of trainings and orientation programs that are available for volunteers that they have to go through before they engage with people in the community through our strategic programs. And we have a whole pyramid of these programs. And in fact, the most sought after one is our Leaders with Purpose program, where business heads are turned away many a time to participate in the program because we keep a very small cohort and apply a lot of our effort to develop civic leaders who can really be custodians of social change in the community. So I think both sides work need to happen. The professionalism in the space, all of you and through everybody's effort needs to help improve that. And then within organizations, we also need to put an effort to look at this as a opportunity for training and professional development and leadership development.
Thank you so much, Balaji, for sharing all this immense knowledge and pearls of wisdom with us. I would move on to invite Dr. Michael Hopkins. He has some interesting question. So,
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay? I
Yes,
don't know
Dr.
about.
Michael.
Okay, hi Balaji. I see you on LinkedIn, very active, very, very nice. I am too, so let's communicate a little bit. Absolutely fascinating what you've been doing, and congratulations for helping so many people. But we analysts, we're never happy. So I do have a couple of questions that I'd like to put towards to you. One is on CSR itself. Your interpretation is CSR as projects, which was the old view of the Indian government. But CSR, as you well know, is a systems approach to running a company towards the long term. So it's not just looking at external stakeholders, which you look at, which is communities and but also the other stakeholders also within the company. So that's one comment, not a criticism, because I'm sure you do quite a lot of it this anyway. And then your last remark, actually, you mentioned on if I can read what I wrote here, on working on with civic leaders, I think is really quite useful. My other point is, as well as a systems approach to running CSR, is also this issue of projects and how you run them. It's impressive what you do. You cover 1.8 million people, you say. That's incredible. But of course, there are 1.3 billion people in India. Probably grown. It's even grown probably since we started talking. But and so what I've often advocated about the CSR project approach is that project should have three components, what I call a macro, meso, and micro. Now, I'm teaching you to suck eggs because I'm sure you thought all this through, and from your comments, you mentioned some of those. It's just that it seems to me a company as important as Tata could help government a lot, because so many of the projects that you do are really the responsibility of the government itself, and they don't do it through lack of resources, through inefficiency, and all sorts of things. So I've often advocated that for any project that you do, and I'm not suggesting you stop anything you do, is that you would have three components: a macro, a meso, and a micro. The micro generally is what I call the project approach, where you're actually in contact with the recipients, with the communities, and so on. The macro approach is the policy approach. It looks like you do some of that anyway with your civic leadership program, but certainly to work with government on the policy. Why is there so much poverty? Why is it so difficult for people to get skills? Why is it more underemployment than unemployment? Why is this? And I think it would be pretty useful for Tata with its partners and other companies to work with government on those issues at the macro level to try and work out what the government can do. Obviously, it won't be done overnight, but over the long to media term in the future. And I think with your power and your intellect and the strength that you have, would be really, really quite useful. You're probably doing a bit of this anyway already. Maybe make more of it, tell people more about what you are doing. And then the meso is actually the link between policy and action on the ground, which is usually the weakest, is which government department, who's involved, are they effective, are they being monitored and evaluated, and so on. And just before I dash off, because I've got another meeting right now, my third point is it would be very nice actually to see, as I mentioned harshly in my comments, a map of all the work that you're actually doing across India. I mean, geographically, you seem to be everywhere. Yes, you're working towards the poorest of the poor. Congratulations on that. It'd be really nice actually to see a map, and I think that you probably do have it actually somewhere, but I would certainly like to see it. But nothing really is critical from my point of view on what you're doing. Just encouraging, please do more, but reach out much more, and
Well,
especially to the
absolutely.
government. Thank you very
Absolutely,
much.
and thanks for those comments. I really appreciate that. Quickly, I'll address that the systems approach is what is driving everything that we do. Today, you got a chance to peer under the hood on some aspects of it. We didn't focus on the other aspects of it, but all stakeholders are being engaged. We have a business with purpose program that is engaging internal stakeholders. We have a government and community relations effort that is engaging government and policy leaders. So we have a systems approach to this, and we definitely are benefiting from the same approach that we apply on the business front and what we use to help our customers to apply the same here. On the policy front and working with government at these three levels, absolutely. We can do more of it, and governments, I think, have a very challenging role to play given the kind of issues that India faces. So I think they are doing their job and they're doing it well. And it is not our place to judge that. But what is our place is to help inform that and definitely promote more understanding of things that are there from our viewpoint. So we have contributed to the national education policy at a macro level, and translating that policy to action we are doing through the space of computational thinking, which we believe is one of the foundations. After the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic, computational thinking is going to be the next most important skill of the world. And then converting it to micro, which is the project itself, is Ignite My Future, which is a program that we are running along with educators and schools across the world. So apologies if some of these things did not come across, but thank you for asking that question and giving me an opportunity to reflect on it in that manner. And I do believe that a lot more can be done on the policy front and informing government and other institutions. We work with NASCOM, we work with CII, but I do believe that some of the examples, like what we have done with the World Economic Forum, in mobilizing about 20 million people to be reskilled for new jobs in the new economy, similar efforts can be done with the focus on India as well. We look forward to that.
I look forward to it too, and I've been a great admirer of your work ever since I've been working in CSR for 20, 25 years, and Tata is really one of the key companies in India, and I'm very pleased to know that you're working with the World Economic Forum. They really do need to listen to you, and I think they will actually. I think the world is moving in that direction as you hear the words sustainability and ESG everywhere. We'll have to have a chat about that one day, what they all mean and where they're all going to go. Earlier today, Harsha had Judge King, now Sir Judge King, looking at some of these issues. And I think it would be very, very nice for you as well to have a look at some of the things he's saying. He quoted your company quite a lot, by the way. Was very, very impressed with what you're doing. As you know, Judge King is the emeritus president of the Global Reporting Initiative and very keen on reporting standards and the rest of it. Obviously, we don't want to get tied up in standards and long reports and all the rest of it. It's fantastic what you do. Action, of course, always. But behind the scenes, of course, thinking is always important. But thank you very much, and thank you very much for listening to me. And goodbye, and the best of luck. And I hope our paths cross at one point in the future. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Dr. Michael.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hopkins, for such wonderful question. May I request Mr. Ramesh Daswani to please come forth and ask his question?
Good evening, Harsha, and good evening, Balaji, once again. I must first of all admit that this has been one of my best sessions I've heard from organized by IICSR. I've been attending many of our functions and many of our seminars, and I think, Mr. Balaji, you've done extremely well the way you have projected and shared all your experiences. Sir, I have 2 points. One is a point where we would like to offer. When I'm saying we, I'm talking about the Rotary world. Right? I'm a part of the Rotary International, the CSR committee here in Maharashtra, and we have started some dialogues with your adult literacy programs and others. We
Yes.
would like to accelerate it, and we would like to make sure that we also make a much larger difference and a larger impact with our volunteers and the kind of resources what we have. So that's just one suggestion I had. I also run an NGO on myself, and it's a mid-sized NGO, and we are in the space of education, livelihood, and healthcare. Uh, a very typical situation which not only we are facing, but I think most of the small NGOs are facing. When you go in for your fundraising, right, and you do an event, and you go to the marketing department of TCS, I'm just giving TCS as a name, the moment they see your appeal, right, they say, okay, you don't fit under a marketing budget, you must go to CSR, right? The moment you go to CSR says we cannot fund events, right? So the dilemma for small NGOs is that in spite of the fact that the pie is growing larger in the giving space of the CSR funding, but the CSR money which comes to the NGOs is becoming more and more tighter because not every NGO can comply with the kind of compliances are required, because smaller NGOs are much better off with a check writing kind of situation, right? Whether it's 1 lakh or 1 crore, not that's not the issue. The point is that that's the way NGOs function, right? And for an NGO to tie up and link the situation with the program is a uphill task, right? Either we have to align with your program or you need to align with our program, which is really the marriage, which is the big problem, right? What are your comments, and where do you see a solution to that, sir?
First of all, thanks for your kind comments. Just here to share what we do as a company, and all of this is on the back of our my team, a wonderful team around the world, and volunteers across the company that and partners that are bringing it to life. So just want to pay respect to that. And thanks for the discussions that we have been having on the adult literacy program. I think it is at a stage where we are shifting our paradigm from creating literacy to literacy as a service. So similar to SaaS or PaaS, which is common in the technology space, the concept is that how do you create this platform and the service that can be accessed by any partner, and through individual's effort can make anybody literate. So we'll be launching it soon, but we certainly are very, very interested in working with you and offering it to you to take it to your beneficiaries through your volunteers. So we are currently Hindi is the language that we have developed it, and we have 9 languages that we have the program in. Hindi is the language that we have available, I think, ready closer to being launched for this each one empower one kind of a model, where anybody can take this and then work with their chai wala, their driver, their bhai, their the local sabji wala, whoever it is that you want to serve and make literate. Or if you want to drive it as a larger effort with a rural community or a in need community, you can do that, and we are offering it as a service. And we believe that that brings a lot of value, right?
Right,
So it has to be a symbiotic partnership where this is not a funding based partnership. This is purely a value based partnership where you are having resources to address local needs, we are having resources to solve the problems that exist, and we come together to work on that. So that's our approach, and that sort of gives you the answer to the second question that you asked also. I know it is a reality that we all live in, right? And I don't envy anyone on the other side trying to raise funds for small to mid-sized NGOs. But I will tell you that we believe a lot in capacity building. So I did mention that it is a mutual selection process. So we may not be a fit for all NGOs out there, and not all NGOs out there may be a fit for us. It is okay. The universe is growing. The
True.
pool of money is growing. The resources are growing. I think we have to get better at identifying who can be partners that are already ready to be partners. And in most cases, if you look back our history, a lot of the partners that we have, multi-year partners, are partners who started off small and have grown along with us, and we have grown along with them. So we are in it for the long haul. So capacity building is a big part of all of our funding efforts also. So program efforts doesn't mean that every rupee that we put in is only directed to program. It is also for capacity building, administration, and overheads that are there. And that is the way in which we believe we, in particular, can work along with NGOs to help grow. The larger needs that exist in NGOs through grant making, we may support some of that, but again, we have to look at it from the point of not just a distribution of money, but what is the impact that it is creating, what kind of outcomes it is resulting in. And we believe that the brand of and the genre of CSR that we run, we want to be more involved in that. We don't want to be check writers, we don't want to be grant makers. There are trusts and foundations and companies that are comfortable doing that, and there will be companies like us who are want to be more involved in being part of the program, being the part of the design, partnering in running the efforts. And I don't have a good answer for you on how to get that sort of grant money from us, but I can tell you that in general the pool is only growing. And but one trend, I personally, this is not a company view, my view over the years, having lived in the US, having lived in India, is that I don't think the old brand of running fundraising efforts by running events may be in vogue in the future.
Right.
If anything, it will shift more to social learning journeys that we can undertake, where either in person or virtually, you can take people on a journey to show whom you are working with, what kind of impact you are creating, and through that, create opportunities for fundraising and more partnership efforts. My personal view, not a company view, but uh,
Thank you.
those are two thoughts I had.
I appreciate. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramesh.
Thank you, Ramesh sir, for the question. We have a question from Johnny Talreja. He's one of our students of Executive Masters in CSR and Sustainability.
Hello, good
Hi,
evening,
Johnny.
everybody. Hi, sir. Sir, actually, very interesting to know how do you use IT in the CSR, and much more than it is also interesting to know how do you train the volunteers. That is also interesting to know. So, sir, my question is basically on, as you said, your target segment is basically youth, women, and the marginalized group, right, sir? So, sir,
Yeah.
this is related to the marginalized group. So, sir, nowadays in LinkedIn, because of the COVID scenario, we see people writing we have lost their jobs, okay, and people upfront on public domain they write they need jobs, okay, and it's not like they were the bad people. Uh, might be some were the performers, but because of the change in the business models, their jobs are impacted, and there are some small medium sized businessmen also which are affected because of COVID. And so these are the people, they have never ever asked for anything. I mean, the poor can at least ask for what they want, and they have never ever asked. And there are many people to help the slum rurals. So my question to you is, do you are you I mean, first of all, can they fit in some of the schedule 7 activities, maybe in livelihood enhancement projects? And if yes, then uh, targeting to are you targeting them as well, or just a thought on this, sir?
It is a difficult situation to be in, right? And this is I think, a issue that occupies a lot of people's mind, including yours and others in this space, right? The pandemic is not a societal issue that we would have anticipated before it hit, and the impact that it created would not be one that we can model for and think about, right? it is very difficult to then say, should we drop everything that we are doing and shift our entire focus to a new set of things that are emerging as a result of it? What about the efforts that we are putting in over the years to address the issues that we are addressing? Who will take those up? Who will ensure that those needs are being met? So it's not an easy situation to be in. At a global level, I can give you the example of Bill Gates and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And he writes really very thoughtful points of view on this space. And I think he and other leaders in the philanthropy space around the world in the first year of the pandemic felt that all of the issues that have been worked on, we will be behind by 10, 20 years. But in the second year of the pandemic, are seeing that that kind of impact may not be there. There may be lesser impact thanks to a lot of social systems and collaborations that were created, right? If you look at that same approach and look at India, I think the disposable income and the savings and the ability to survive through some of these challenges, that resilience is there in some parts of the economy, right? So middle, medium enterprises or mid-sized enterprises, even if they are not run by the most marginalized or the most affluent, I think there is some sort of social safety nets that are there in the form of savings, in the form of customer base, in the form of relatives and others who have disposable income that may have helped them during this time. I'm not saying there is a good solution to this. I'm just saying that in addition to really looking at continuing to work on the issues that we think are most important and are still relevant, there are some efforts that we have undertaken in this space also, but it is tough to be everything for everybody, right? I think Dr. Michael also asked this question on, you're serving 1.8 million, there are 2 billion people or 1.7 billion people, how do you serve them? I don't think we can be everything for everybody, and that recognition has to be there. Otherwise, you'll be no one, nothing for anybody. So we are very focused on the things that we want to do, and we want to continue to work on the space and create a meaningful change so that those issues cease to exist in the world. And then we can go on to tackle new issues. I don't have a good answer to your question, my friend. But just to say that I have had relatives, I've had people in my circle go through similar circumstances. And I think it is families and local circles of friends that have helped them pull through, and they are lucky, and we should be grateful that they have that kind of support, because most of the marginalized folks don't have any safety nets. They don't have that kind of support. Even though you may think that large amounts of money are being allotted by the government and other institutions, what reaches each individual and family is just enough for their sustenance, not for anything more.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Johnny, for your question. I know that it's been a long evening, but Miss Rita Soni, who is our common friend, she has asked her question: does impact sourcing play a role in
Yes, I see the
program?
question. So what I want to give us a I'm sorry, you were breaking up, Harsha. I couldn't hear you.
So Miss Rita
Yeah, I
Soni,
see the question. Thank you.
okay, okay.
So yes, it does play, and that's why I said it is not employability program but employment program. So impact sourcing does play an important role. So the youth employment program, for example, there are four parts to it: teach, coach, mentor, and place. So the marginalized youth that we serve and work with around the country, we teach them business skills and skills that are relevant for the new economy. We train them on those skills by giving them opportunities for real life experiential learning and applying it to problem sets. We then mentor them through industry professionals who interact with them through our company and other companies, and then help them be placed. So we work with the National Employment Organization. We work with a set of partners within the Tata group of companies. We work with, as I said, collaborators from companies and customers that we work with, and even competitors, a whole set of competitors that we work with. So, our ideal goal is that every person who goes through the program gets placed into a job opportunity. We are away from achieving that goal, but we are closer to 25-30% of people at this stage, and are increasing that number every year. And I'm sure that in the next few years, we will reach a situation where 80 to 90% of people who go through the program are placed, and the manner in which they are placed is through impact sourcing. So the other side of this picture is companies and the recruitment systems that exist. You don't have to create quotas, but you need to look at this as a source of talent pool that is available, is passionate, and has the skills. And with these sort of programs, can bridge the gap between college and career. So I hope I addressed your question, Rita.
Thank you. It has been indeed a pleasure talking to you. Some of the comments from our LinkedIn viewers appreciating the whole session, I can just show you. And really appreciate the time that you have given us, and highly appreciate all the information shared by you, and with all our viewers, with patiently answering to all the questions of all our peer group. I really appreciate, and we wish very best of luck to you and to TCS for all the coming endeavors. There is a long way to go, and we would love to engage with you all in whatever manner and capacity as much as possible.
Thank you so
Thank
much for having me, Harsha. It is a pleasure. Thank you all for spending your evening with me, and all the very best. Stay healthy, stay happy, and lead a purposeful life. Thank you. Bye.